Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Arfani Melvira with BP number 210733004. And in this occasion, I would like to explain to you guys my proposal with the title The Representation of Gender Identity in The Danish Girl by David Ebersov. Uh, the first one is the overview of my research. This research aimed to explain the phenomenon of transgender issues in The Danish Girl by David Ebersov using the queer theory by Judith Butler. This research also shows the portrayal and the relation regarding the main character's desire to fight for his identity. Um, Other than that, this research also used queer theory as a chosen theory to elaborate more on issues related to transgender or gender identity itself, which is the focus of this research. Uh, the method used in this study is a qualitative method by analyzing transgender phenomena or issues in the novel The Danish Girl. The second one is the background of this research. The background of this research is to find out the issues related to transgender itself, including their sexualities or their gender identities. As we know that transgender is a common issues these days. These issues are always associated with the transgender phenomenon. Uh, Transgender itself is experiences abnormalities or tendencies toward the conception of gender that has been socially constructed in social life. In general, this group doesn't emphasize sexual orientation, but rather different behavior and roles from what already exists. Like man, man is like their he his behavior like a woman, or woman his behavior like a man, or their sexual orientation is different from uh, the orientation that already exists. Num The next one is also the background of the research. This research give an understanding of gender identity, which is one of the concerns of or creates new assumption in society. Nowadays, the issues related to transgender is increasing and becoming a public concern, where many trans people are not ashamed to admit their identity. Maybe in Indonesia itself, like because I live in Indonesia, but I think people in Indonesia is more close about their identities. I mean, like if they are transgender, but they didn't admit it, like they hide they hiding because they're shy to show their orientation. And besides that, as we know that many media social have exposed problems related to these issues. For example, social media like Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, or Facebook, and even through literary works. So in this opportunity, I would like to give you one example, like a literary work that describe about a transgender is The Danish Girl by David Ebersov. The next one is what is the problem is in the novel. Okay, I'm gonna give you the identification of the problems. The problem raised in this novel experienced by the main character Einar, who has problems towards sexual orientation and behavior that deviates from the gender that has been constructed naturally. At that time, Einar felt that he was comfortable being a woman. He felt there was no match between his physical and his sex. Because of this, he started to question himself that he was a woman, and since then, the figure of Lily Alby provided comfort to Einar. This novel more emphasizes the inner turmoil of the main character, Einar, who is struggling to find his identity and sexual orientation as a man. And to get more understanding of transgender people, the author used a literature review. The first article was about the meaning of sexual and gender identities in transgender men. In this article, the writer explains the sexuality and also gender identity that occurs in men who decided to become transgender. So we can see the representation and life as transgender men. We can explore how trans men's experiences decided the transition from male to female, which is related to the topic that the author discussed. The main character of the novel, the Danish girl, Einar, who decide to become a woman. And then the second article is a review of transgender people, a challenge and a solution. Um, in this article, we can find out how transgender people respond to all the problems they face. Apart from that, the solution that can be taken in the situation, to remember that there's a lot of social pressure that this doesn't support their existence. From this article, we can also see how big the challenge is for them. It is not uncommon for transgender people to be rejected by their own families. Uh, the third article is Gender and Sexuality, Critical Theories, Critical Thinkers. Um, in this article, we can find out about gender and sexuality based on critical theories and critical thinkers, which is uh, an important aspect of research. With critical theories, we can understand what makes someone decided to be transgender. And also in this article, explain it all in detail, and we can find new perspective regarding this matter. The last article talks about queer theory by Damien and Garrett. Because in this research, I use queer theory as a theory to elaborate my research, and then the issues are related to this research. Uh, as we know that queer discusses about theory about gender. This article gave us the perspective or of queer study on transgender and gender studies, as we know that both correlated. This article also explains that women's and gender studies have discussed matters relating to transgender or LGBT. Since then, many issues have discussed transgender. Uh, mm, the next is a research question. Overall, this research was conducted to answer the following questions. Number one, how does Einer's identity as a transgender person survive in the social environment? And then the second one is, what is the influence of queer theory on transgender people related to sexuality and gender issues these days? Um, so every research have the scope of their research. Uh, the first one is this research to analyze the Danish Girl novel, which focus on the transgender issues pointed by the main character in the story. Number two, in this analyze, the author used queer theory by Judith Butler to elaborate the issues related to transgender people. Uh, This research used a qualitative method by analyzing sources related to issues. The sources used are novels, journals, articles, and also a movie to compare between a novel and the movie, so we can see the difference between two works, and also all of the related topics. So, what is the objective of the study? Objective of the study is to focus on how Einar survived and his struggles in his environment, considering he is the first transgender in the world. In addition, the study also discussed several aspects or factors that caused him to decide to transform into a woman. And okay, we're going to talk about the theoretical framework. In this analysis, the author used queer theory by Judith Butler, in which there is an understanding of gender identity, transgender, and transsexualism. The term queer has big relation with sexuality, such as studies of transsexual, transgender identification, transgressive desire, and transgender, according to Spargo 1999. So, queer theory is a situation that is different from what it should be, and this is related to sex, gender, and also sexual desire. So, what is queer theory? The definition of queer theory is a condition that is inappropriate or deviated from existing norms because it can lead to something worse. The queer theory at this time has become a study that is often raised in research that carries or contains elements of gender or uh, sexuality or gender identity in it. Therefore, queers consider a lesbian, trans, gay, and others. Uh, the queer theory describes the situation experienced by Einar, where he had to try to find his identity in a society that was not used to such a things. Um, in queer theory, we also know about two things. Um, the first one is gender identity. Gender identity is our identity as individuals, be it male or female. However, at this time, there are many different genders, let's say trans, lesbians, and gay, which are usually known as the queer gender. Uh, uh, because they do not fall into the category of man or women. Therefore, gender identity is a sensitive subject to discuss, but at this time, people have started to open up to present of LGBT. Gender identity is always related to person sexual orientation, gender operation, and all matters related to gender. So in this occasion, the author decided to discuss one gender queer, which is transgender, uh, the topic of discussion in this research. Number two is transgender. Transgender is a condition where a person tends to the opposite sex, like I mentioned before, like uh, man pretend like a woman or vice versa. Uh, Transgender people usually feel that they do not fit in with the gender they were born with. Therefore, many of them look different from their original gender. A transgender is a person who feels their nature or attitude is the opposite of what they should be. It is undeniable that when we discuss transgender, it must have something to do with transsexual. A transsexual itself is a condition where a person or uh, decides to change their gender by having a sex change operation. This is also an illustration of Einar, who was transgender and then changed his gender and become transsexual. So there's difference between transsexual and then transgender. Transgender is just our behavior or just so we do not do operation, but transsexual do the operation to change her to change their sex. Uh, Although even though in the end Einar failed in surgery because it was too risky and caused Einar to die. Uh, okay, we move into research methodology. In this analysis, the author used a qualitative method by exploring and analyzing the phenomenon of transgender in the novel The Danish Girl. The qualitative method also places more emphasis on thematic analysis, which is involves or identifies something intending to find the theme of the story. So the first one I did was I did collecting data. This research used library research by collecting data based on analysis in the form of books and journals or articles, which includes a detailed understanding of the topic. Um, research by doing several things, such as reading or taking notes on things related to the research itself by looking for literature or reading that is by the topic or issue raised in the research. Uh, Collecting that data is divided into two sections. I guess the first one is primary data. Primary data is the main source for analyzing this research, such as novels and film adaptation. The purpose of film adaptation is to look at the differences between uh, the novel and the movie. So we can get more detailed results regarding this matter. Number two is secondary data. Secondary data is data obtained by tracing various sources related to the topic raised to deepen the analysis. The data or sources used are books, journal articles, and even videos that explain all things related to transgender, queer theory, or many issues that related to this topic. Uh, Number two is analyzing data. This research use a qualitative um, method to analyze the data. The issue raised in the study, the qualitative method itself is an activity carried by understanding and exploring issues that occur in our society, like uh, in the situation, the author examines the novel The Danish Girl, which is the object of a research using a qualitative method. Uh, Number three is presenting the result. In presenting or providing an elaboration of this research, uh, an explanation or a description regarding the study will be carried by providing the existing procedure framework. uh, we can start from chapter one. There is an introduction section, and in which there is background of the research, identification of the research, scope of the research, a research question, and the objective of the research to provide an overview of this research itself. And chapter 2 is including contains the theory and methods used in conducting this research. Okay, that's all about my proposal, and then the thing that I have explained to you. Thank you so much for watching my video. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.